creates a database, an auditable database. And we'll talk about ledgers, particularly next week, but we'll talk about ledgers all throughout this course and how it changes the world of finance. Now, it's secured by cryptography because cryptography, remember, is communications and making sure adversaries can't pick you off. We're going to learn about hash functions. And hash functions are a really important part of cryptography, and initially for databases and how to search and store information in databases. But in this circumstances, hash functions were the way to not only append the next block to the prior blocks, but really importantly to compress data, to make it more manipulable, and to verify it. And as I've written here, tamper resistance and the integrity. Digital signatures, which has to do the public key, private key cryptography. There is no prerequisite of this course. You do not have had to have taken computer science, cryptography, algorithms. If I could learn a little bit about hash functions and asymmetric cryptography, these are the two key important sides. And we have enough computer scientists in this room that can sort us out if I say the wrong thing. Right, Midors? Oh boy. And then consensus. So there's a really important part of blockchain is how do you decide who appends that next block? Because when I went back here, there's block to block. Each of these blocks, somebody has to decide who appends, who gets to pick the next block. And that's what's called consensus protocol. And there's wide debates about consensus protocol. And we'll talk a lot about consensus protocol. But in essence, it addresses something, a term called the cost of trust, and we'll talk about Byzantine generals' problems, which is another reading. The Byzantine generals' problem was laid out as a sort of mathematical game theory issue some 30-ish years ago. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto solved, was this last part, the Byzantine generals' problem. Pizza for Bitcoins. A year and a half after Satoshi Nakamoto laid out blockchain, Bitcoin, somebody sent an email, and you'll get these slides, but this is the real live email. I'll pay you 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas. I just want some pizzas. The guy who sent this, he says, I like onions, peppers, sausage, mushrooms. Laszlo. Now catch the date. This is May 18th, and he's offering 10,000 Bitcoins of 2010. But the key line is, what I'm aiming for is getting food delivered in exchange for Bitcoins. Nobody had used Bitcoins as a medium of exchange. 16 months into its existence, nobody had used it to buy something. And Laszlo, as a computer scientist in Florida, was just kind of interested, and he put this out on an email list. 3 days later, he still doesn't have his 2 pizzas. So nobody wants to buy me a pizza. Is the Bitcoin amount I'm offering too low? Another day goes by, he gets his pizzas. And he posts pictures. So here's a picture of his child reaching for those Papa John pizzas. Anybody know what those 10,000 Bitcoins were worth back then? Chicago. Anybody want to say back then? What's that? $41. And Laszlo was saying 2 pizzas are probably worth 25 to 30 because there's a whole email thread. He kept saying, why won't anybody get me my pizzas? You can make money on this. Today, or earlier, last night, $66 million. Yeah, so it's a kind of a cute story. May 22nd every year is called Pizza Day or Bitcoin Pizza.